Welcome. My purpose for this video channel is to share with you what I have discovered, which makes it possible to harmonize the Bible and science. It seems that the young people are told that they must decide for science or for the Bible, but this is not true. I have written a book on this subject called New Evidence for Two Human Origins: Discoveries that Reconcile the Bible and Science. Please note that this title mentions two human origins. I have discovered strong evidence from the Bible that God created the human race at two different times and in two different manners. Most Christians are acquainted with God's method of creation that is described in Genesis chapter 2. This account teaches that God created Adam directly from the ground and Eve from Adam's side. This was a sudden supernatural creation. But my evidence shows that God also created a pre-Adamic race by another method as recorded in Genesis chapter 1. This first video will begin by discussing the mathematical evidence that I have found in the biblical genealogies that support this dual human origin thesis. From an analysis of the lifespans given for these patriarchs in the biblical genealogies, we can deduce that the descendants of Adam and Eve married into an existing human race. Please observe the following graph that shows the decline in lifespans from the days of Adam to the time of Moses' brother Aaron. Looking at this graph, you will notice that the vertical y-axis indicates the lifespans in years of the Hebrew patriarchs. The horizontal x-axis shows their birth dates, indicating the length of time before Christ that each one lived. From Adam's creation at approximately 4170 BC to Noah's birth at about 3100 BC, their lifespans held at about 930 years. Two exceptions may be noted. The first exception, moving left to right, was Enoch, who lived 365 years, and then he was translated by God. In other words, he did not live out his potential lifespan. The second exception was Lamech, who probably also did not live out his potential lifespan, since Noah, his son, lived to a ripe old age of 950 years. Now notice, from the time of Noah, for many years the lifespans decreased almost continuously, but at a decreasing rate as time went on. Have you ever wondered why these lifespans decreased and why they decreased as they did? Notice that they decreased a great deal from Noah to his son Shem. After this, the lifespans of Arpachshad, Selah, and Eber held at 440 years. Then Peleg, Reu, and Serug held at about 236 years. Serug's son Nahor lived 148 years, but his son Terah lived 205 years. Abraham lived 175 years, and so on. A little mathematical analysis of these lifespans reveals the secrets behind the particular decreases and increase in these lifespans. It has been discovered that there are over 7,000 genes that determine each of our lifespans. This means that the law of probability will result in the child's being born with a potential lifespan which is the average of his two parents. Generally speaking, this is why the lifespans dropped and even rose in length. For example, lifespans held when the descendants of Noah settled at Babel, but when God dispersed them from Babel, their lifespans began to drop again. What is more, when they dropped again, they dropped the average of their lifespan and the lifespan
by calculating the most probable
race.
lifespans for each patriarch and then comparing the patriarch's actual lifespan with their most probable lifespans, I was able to show evidence that this dual origin thesis is correct. To do this, it was first necessary to calculate the possible lifespans of the first few generations after the intermarriages began to occur. Remember, the lifespans of successive generations will be the average of the parents' potential lifespans. The chart you see shows successive generations after the descendants of Adam began to marry into the pre-Adamic people. The descendants of Adam had a lifespan of 929 years, and the pre-Adamic people had a lifespan of approximately 60 years. The possible lifespans that could have been produced are shown here. To calculate Shem's most probable lifespan, I have chosen from the chart the lifespans that were the most probable lifespans of Adam's wife. This table shows the calculations for the lifespans of Noah's son Shem based upon the various most probable lifespans of Noah's offsprings as calculated from the various probable potential lifespans of his wife. Now we need to see if Shem's actual lifespan was near any of these calculated lifespans. This bar graph shows these probable lifespans of Shem and also Shem's actual lifespan, which was 600 years. Please note how close Shem's actual lifespan was to the 603.12 years, one of his probable lifespans. Please notice that Shem's lifespan of 600 years was only 3 years less than the probable lifespan of 603.12 years. One might conclude that this is a coincidence. However, let us look at the results of Shem's son Arpachshad. This table on page 28 of my book shows the calculations for the lifespans of Shem's son Arpachshad based upon the various most probable lifespans of Shem's offsprings as calculated from the various probable potential lifespans of his wife. Now we see if Arpachshad's actual lifespan was near any of these calculated lifespans. This bar graph shows these probable lifespans and also Arpachshad's actual lifespan, which was 438 years. Please note how close Arpachshad's actual lifespan was to the 440.18 years, one of his probable lifespans. One might also conclude that this is a coincidence. However, let us look at the results for Arpachshad's son, Shelah. We would not expect a decrease in lifespans for Arpachshad's son Shelah because the group at Babel was determined not to be scattered. They must have certainly realized by this time that if they were scattered, their lifespans would begin to decrease toward the length of the pre-Adamic race. Here is the result in bar graph form for Sheila's probable lifespan and his actual lifespan. These results show an amazing correspondence. Could this be just happenstance? Chart 7 shows a similar result for Sheila's son Eber. We shall look at one more lifespan comparison. This table reveals something that is very telling. A good scientific theory should be able to be used to predict experimental results. We would expect that when they were scattered from Babel, that their lifespans would drop to the average of 440 and 60, which would be a lifespan of approximately 250 years. Eber's son Peleg lived 239 years, 11 years less than his calculated lifespan. Not really that much. Chart 8 shows the calculated lifespan of the patriarchs at Babel, the calculated average between this lifespan and 60 years, and the actual lifespan of Eber's son Peleg. My book continues to compare actual patriarch lifespans with the most probable calculated lifespans. Here is a chart that shows the results of all the bar graphs. The short lines above or below the dots indicate the values of the most probable calculated lifespans. The dots show the actual lifespans of the patriarchs. Please notice that the dots land near a theoretical lifespan rather than somewhere near or at the space between them. What are the chances of this happening in all these examples? This must indicate that the descendants of Noah married into the pre-Adamic race. This has been my first video about my book, New Evidence for Two Human Origins, Discoveries that Reconcile the Bible and Science. I intend to upload more videos on the subject of reconciling the Bible and science. For example, where Genesis 2:4 says, "These are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created, in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens." Is it referring to Genesis chapter 1 or Genesis chapter 2? We will definitely answer this question. Or does the New Testament teach that Adam was the first man? Please share my videos with others so that others may understand how the Bible and science can be reconciled. I also have a blog about my dual origin thesis. I will show the address here. Thank you so much for watching.